Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel, the Merchant Construct-preneurs and Tutors. You go to channel for construction, structural engineering, explanations, and also practical experience. Right. So in my last video, I talked about the elements of a roof structure, and we treated the wall plates, the tie beams, we treated the struts. Right. So now we'll be looking at the other part of it. Now I said part one and part two. So the other part of it, looking at the the rafters. We're looking at the king post. We're looking at the purlins in this video. So we're looking at the rafter. So rafter is a sloping wooden beam that forms the basic shape of a pitch roof. So it runs from the top ridge, that's from the center down to the wall plate extension, like the tie beam. Right. So multiple rafters support the roof covering, like metal sheets, shingles. So these are the structure that the roofing sheet rests on that forms that shape. So this is the skeletal part of it, right? So 2x6 woods are usually used depending on the span, on the roof span. So the sizes may vary actually, but generally 2x6 are used. So it connects the topmost part, as you can see in the image here, the topmost part down to the tie beam or the wall plate, depending on the case. So look at the image, you can see the arrow pointing at the rafter there. So we'll be looking at a quick example of how to calculate this, right? The quantity of rafters needed. So we're considering a building of dimension 6.8 meters by 18 meters. So we need to estimate the quantity of rafter wood needed for the building, and we are looking at a height, the roof height of 3 meters, right? And the overhang of 0.6 meters or 600 millimeters. So it gives you an idea of what you are expected to know, to write. So the solution, we said the roof runs from the pitch of the roof diagonally, sloping, to join the tie beams overhang on both ends. So that is where it forms the basis of how to calculate the length of the rafters, right? So the overall length of the tie beam is what? The span plus the overhang on both ends. So the span from the dimension of the building is 6.8 plus the overhang on both sides 0.6. So we have 8 meters, right? So now we will now be looking at calculating the one side, like each side of the rafter, using Pythagoras theorem. From the diagram there, you can see the height. We have 3 meters roof height. Then the total length of the tie beam is 8 meters. So we are dividing into two. We have 4 meters to one side, 4 meters to the other side. So we want to know the longer side, and which is the hypotenuse. So using Pythagoras theorem, right, we'll be solving to get the length of one rafter, right, for this particular roof size. So we're having the length of the longer side as 5 meters. So in two places now, because this is how the roof is pitch. So in two places, 5 meters for each sloping end, right? So since the rafters are nailed side by side with the tie beams and struts, so we are using the same number of tie beams, the number that we got for tie beams. If you remember the first video, um if you don't get this, now you need to go back to that first video to watch how we calculated for the tie beams and struts. So using that now, so we now have the total length of rafter as 15 multiplied by 5 meters. From that initial calculation, we had 15 numbers of tie beam. So 15 multiplied by 5 meters, we have 75 length. Now 75 length, they don't sell wood in the market at 75 length. So the standard size, which is 3.6, and then the wood used is 3 inches by 4 inches, right? So we want to know the number of wood we need to buy. So it will be 75 meter length divided by 3.6, which is the one length, dimension of one length. So we have 21 numbers of 3 inches by 4 inches wood for calculating our rafters, right? So we're looking at another important element in this roof structure, and that is called the purlins. Now, the purlins are horizontal beam that run across the roof structure that support the roofing sheet and help spread the weight evenly across the purlins, across the roof. Okay, so this is just telling you that you have your rafters, then you now have your purlins that your roofing sheet will be resting on, to the support the roofing sheets majorly. So they also help in keeping the rafters in place, making the whole structure stronger. And depending on the spacing and the roof, we have 2 by 2, 2 by 3, 2 by 4, 3 by 4, depending on the type of roof structure that is being considered, right? Okay, so from the image now, we're looking at the purlins. You can see the image, the arrow where it is pointing at. Those are the purlins. So the roofing sheet sits directly on the purlins. The purlins connect the rafters together. You can see. So that is it. Those are the purlins. So we're looking at a quick example of how to calculate the number of purlins needed. Now, the building is 6.8 by 18 meters in dimensions, right? And we are to estimate the quantity of purlins, assuming you are spacing these purlins at 900 center to center. The reason being so that the roof installers will be able to walk freely and not fall into the structure, right? The piece of their leg. So now, the purlins are nailed to the rafters and spaced at 900 millimeters center to center along the length of 18 meters, right? So going by the dimensions of the rafters in the previous example on both sides, the length. So for the length, we have 5 meters by 5 meters multiplied by 18 meter length. I don't know if you understood this explanation now. The purlins are by sitting on the rafter. So one length of the purlin is 5 meters, the other length of the rafter is 5 meters. Can you see from the image here? Can you see? So now we want to know total length of purlin that is needed. Total length. Since we are now spacing it at 0.9 meters, so we are having 200 meters. So if you don't understand, just look at this image, understand how the purlins are sitting. They are running along the side where the rafters are, so we need to get that first before we now know how many lengths of purlins we'll be needing. And then, so from here, we said one length of 2 by 4 is 3.6 meters. So getting the total number of purlins now, we'll be having 200 divided by 3.6, and then we're having a number 56 numbers of 2 by 2 wood, right? Okay, so we'll be looking at the next one, which is the king post. The king post, just like the name implies, stays at the middle like a king. So it is connecting the topmost part, that is the topmost part, and then connecting the tie beam at the base. So it's a vertical wooden beam placed at the center of the roof truss, right? It runs from the top, that is the ridge of the roof, down to the tie beam at the base, perpendicular. Now the king post holds up the center of the roof, helping to support the rafters and prevent the tie beams from sagging, right? It has its own purpose, and this is what it's doing. And it also helps to distribute the weight evenly, making the roof more stable and strong. The rafters rest on it. The purlins rest on the rafter. The tie beam rests on the wall plate. The wall plate holds everything together, so everything works hand in hand right? So the king post helps to balance it, and then depending on the type of load expected, different type of wood sizes are used. You can see from the image here, you can see the king post, the roof truss, and then the king post where the arrow will be pointing at. Can you see? That is what we call the king post. So it's strategically placed at that position to hold and to maintain the roof structure. Make sure that it's stable. So we're looking at a last instance. Yeah. So we are considering a building of 6.8 meters by 18 meters dimensions. Now we want to estimate the quantity of king posts at a height of 3.5 needed for the building. Now the king post is connecting the rafter, right? So anywhere you have the rafter, you also have the king post. So we are going to be using the same value that we got from for our rafter. We are going to be using it for our king post. Right, so the number of king posts is the same as that of the rafters. So we have 15 multiplied by the height, 3.5 meters. Right. So we're having 52.5 meters. That is what is the length needed. Right. So it's just a schematic view of what you want. So now, in the market, you cannot get 52.5 meters wood. So we need to know the standard and then know how many we are buying. So one length of 2x6 wood is 3.6 meters in the standard length, like market length. So how many wood we needing? So we are having 52.5 divided by 3.6. Now, so we are having 15 numbers of 2 inches by 6 inches wood. As is required for the king post construction, right? So as it is like this now, we have been able to break down the elements that make a roof structure. From our first video, we talked about the wall plate, the tie beam, the struts, and then for this other video, we talk about the rafters, the king post. So I believe you should be able to understand this and make a quick estimate of what you need or what is needed in a construction site, a small construction project, right? There are different type of wood structures, so you just need to read more and equip yourself more. So thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, the Merchant Construct-preneurs and Tutors, to get more expository videos and explanations on construction.